Hi, I'm John Toole, and we're sitting here in about middle of May right now in Minnesota, and our shoots on our grapes are getting to be about that 2 to 3 inch shoot stage. Some of them are a little shorter, some are a little longer, but this is kind of an ideal time to start thinking about shoot thinning actually. It's relatively easy to remove shoots at this point because they basically just flick off with a light touch of the finger, and it's open enough that you can still determine if there's enough shoots in a certain amount of trellis, or if it's too crowded, for example. You can pretty easily tell that at this point. There's real no goal of how many shoots that we need to have per trellis foot, but we just don't want it to get too crowded by later part of the season. So I'm not going to thin off too much at this point exactly now, because we do know that there might be some hail. There's small chance that we might still have frost. When I look at this, right now, this looks pretty nicely done. You know, we did some spurs here, so that's pretty thin. The only thing I see is maybe some unexpected non-count buds, like that are pointing underneath. Those would be potential ones that I would thin off on this VSP trellis system. But it's not every time that you want to remove everything just because it's a non-count bud. For instance, if you have a shoot or a bud that's pushing out of the base of a spur like this, and you want to replace this spur next year with this new one, it's best to leave that, even if it's not quite fruitful. Sometimes you have in the same spot 2 buds growing at the same time. If you feel like you need to thin one of those off, go for the later one, save the more mature one. Here in this little spur, there's a lot of things going on. There's a little tiny one here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's plenty for one spur. We can get it down to 3. So I think that looks good. This one is saved, that's saved. That would be good for fruit. And this guy underneath here will actually be good to replace that spur next year. So I can cut this whole thing off next season's pruning and save this little guy underneath here for the new spur that will come in next year. So we're gonna let everything right now, but in 1 year, prune that away and save that one also. Here you can see we've got a couple of backup renewal shoots coming along just in case, you know, we want to replace any cordon. So those are good to keep for a while. They're not in the way. Generally on per spur, I don't want to have much more than 3 shoots per spur. And in some cases, we can even go down to 2. So these look pretty nice and in balance. The reason that the shoot density is so sparse is because we pruned these pretty severely when we did go through and prune. We basically left these 2 or 3 node spurs, and the spurs were basically a fist distance apart as best as we could do. And essentially, we were going for not much more than 6 to 8 buds per trellis foot. So like right here, there's a lot of buds going on right now. So if I look at a foot of trellis and come down and count, that's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's easily more than double what we really need. So let's take a few of those guys out of here. Good candidates would be ones that are lagging behind, ones that might be 2 shoots out of the same node, anybody that might be out of the realm. One of these 2 could be saved. Let's see, it's still plenty stuff going on. Maybe we could take this thing off one more back here, remove that. There, and now it's kind of a little bit more reasonable. That seems to be a little bit looser, a little bit more airflow going on. So as we move along, here's some stuff that we saved and it didn't quite work out, so we're gonna leave more here to make up for that. Some suckers on the trunk, that's always a process going on now too. But yeah, basically there's not a lot of shoot thinning that needs to go on here. And again, we can come back and do this shoot thinning in about another week or 2 when things are a little bit more advanced.